Hi, so today, off the cuff, I just recorded a. I'll put it on after this one. It's kind of funny. But today I want to explain modes, and people run out of the room screaming. They get very intimidated by, what does it mean, and how do I figure it out? I understand that. It's actually a lot easier, and you'll be surprised how easy it is. Um, I'm going to try to be as concise compared to how I was in the first video, which I'm going to stick on after, as I can, so that you get it. Um, there are 7 modes that we use, and each one has a name. Each one is based on one of the uh, scale degrees in a white note scale. Like if you have a piano, there's a white note scale kind of built in there. It goes, and if you start on C, we're going to just pick C today. It goes, C, D, so, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? And that you get that in the piano too. So tune your harp in C just for now if you want to try this at home. Try it at home. Uh, you can give a number to each of these scale degrees. You can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And not all the intervals, the space between notes, are created equal. Most of them are whole steps, which is, if you don't know what that means, it's just basically 2 white notes together. But you'll notice on a piano there's 2 moments on there where there's no black note in between those 2 white notes. Usually it goes, white, black, white, black, white, white. There's 2 whites in a row with no black note. And the equivalent of that on the harp, for example, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So between 3 and 4, that's that spot in the piano where there's no black note in between. That's called a half step. All the rest are whole steps. And so if you think of what a half step is, again, think of the piano. It's where 2 notes are touching together directly, adjacently. Um, any other spot on the piano would be 2 notes touching together adjacently, but they'd be white or black or white. A whole step is 2 of those half steps added together. So let's just take C and C sharp. That's a white going to a black. That's a half step. C sharp to D is another half step. They're touching each other. But C to D is a whole step because you just added the first half step to the second half step, and they smush together to be a whole step. So anyway, here's the deal. It's extremely important to know, first of all, that you actually have 2 sets of half steps in a scale. The one we're using today anyway. So it goes 1, 2, between 3 and 4 is your half step. 5, 6, 7, and 8 is your half step. So 3, 4, 7, 8. And what happens to create all the different modes is that instead of starting on C, we're just going to use this as a generic example, like as a template. If you learn this one, you learn all of them. Just learn this one first so you get, the basic idea. And the model that you can just sort of cookie cutter onto other keys. If you start on the first one, those half steps again are between 3, 4, and 7, 8. If I start on the second string, which is your, 2, your half steps have shifted. So now it goes, we're going to call, instead of this 2, we'll call it 1. So now it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's your second mode. So we went from the first mode on a C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, to the second mode, starting on the second string D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The third mode, guess what? Starts on the third string, and that's your E, and you call it 1. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I haven't retuned the harp at all. I'm just getting the qualities of each mode. And what creates those qualities is where the half steps land. They shift in each scale. So, again, the first scale that starts on that C, we call that 1, and you'd have 3, 4, 7, 8, or where your half steps are. I haven't changed anything on the harp. I'm going to start in the second string, call that 1 now, and now my half steps are 2, 3, 6, 7. If I start it, so it's shifted down. If 1 notch. If I start in the third string and call that 1 now, that's our main note of the scale. It's our bass. You go 1, 2 is where your half step is. 5, 6 is where your half step is. And on up the scale. So those little 3, 4, 7, 8s keep shifting down a notch as you go up the scale and calling that new string 1. So if it's the 4th string, you just call that 1 and that becomes, we'll do it. That's your 4th mode. There's 7 of them. This is the 4th one. So you go 3, 4 between 3, 4. Wait a minute, I didn't do that right. No, 5. Well, let me start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is now where your half step is. 6, 7, 8. And some of these scales, that sounded kind of major with a little bit of funk in the middle. You know, the second scale degree sounds a little bit minor with a little funk at the top. You know, good funk, not a bad one. Here's what people start, you know, they get really, really scared by this, and it's not scary at all. Instead of calling it the 4th mode or the 6th mode or the 2nd mode because you're starting on the 4th string or the 6th string or the 2nd string, we have these fun little names, and I think they're Greek. Do I know? It's all Greek to me. And the only reason why I remember this in the order that I do, the Grecian urns, think of that, I guess, is because I remembered this silly little nonsense. What is it? An acronym? I don't know. It's the first letter of each mode. So idplamal. I learned that when I was a freshman in college. I made it up so I'd remember it for the test. And it works. I remembered it all these years, and it's a complete nonsense word. Idplamal. And it's spelled Idplmal. Just memorize that, and you'll never have a problem. And those are the first letters of Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Idplmal, and I went Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. That sounds impressive. If you do it enough times, you can do it too, not hard. I sometimes have to go back and think of that acronym because I forget. I sometimes get Lydian and Locrian, or, you know, I get Phrygian out of order, or, you know, whatever it is, I don't know. Some of these scales you use maybe less frequently, like maybe the 3rd one, IDP Phrygian, you know, it's got the half step, which used to be 3 and 4, you know, is now 1 and 2. Or maybe the Locrian scale, which is the last one again, you know. So, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's your half step between 7 and 8. That becomes 1 and 2. So you have half steps in the beginning. I'm not saying you don't use those scales. You do. They're lovely. And there's other kinds of scales too. There's not just the, you know, the sort of basic, you know, what we call the major scale. There's, you know, the octatonic scale or the pentatonic scale or the chromatic scale or the whole tone scale. All kinds of scales. For now, we're just using this one, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the do, a deer, female deer scale. And we call that the major scale. Guess what? Surprise, here's what I didn't know, and I found out later. It's called the Ionian scale. All your major scales are Ionian. How cool is that? It's like dulcimer. You know, that dulcimers are primarily a lot of the time tuned in Ionian scale or Mixolydian scale, which is the 5th. Still do it with me. I, D, P, L, M. Mixolydian starts on that 5th scale degree. Then you call that 1 and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And your half steps are in bonkers spots, like, you know, 3, 4, just like the old times. And, you know, major Ionian. 5, 6, 7. So between 6 and 7 is where your half step is now, as opposed to 7 and 8. And that gives that scale that quality. Okay, so you really, really, really need to learn the generic version first. Because later on, you're going to get somebody saying, play for me. I'm just going to pick a random one. It can be, you know, the A flat major Phrygian. I mean, just random, A flat Phrygian. So I can't really demonstrate it on the harp because I need all the black notes. So we'll just put it on this side of my leg. Just not let it take a snooze for a moment. Think of what that means. A flat Phrygian. I have to think about it too. No different. What is Phrygian? Okay, wake back up. Come on. Wake up. Child, pay attention. Oh, okay, what's there? You need the Phrygian scale. So let's do one. So I, D, P. Remember, idplamal, Phrygian. This is the 3rd scale degree. in a C major scale. You really, really, really need to know it in one key to get it in all the other keys. So it starts in the third scale degree and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Think of where your half steps are. They're between 1 and 2, 5, 6, between 1 and 2 and 5 and 6. So here's one way to figure out an A flat Phrygian scale, is to start on A flat and put the half steps between 1 and 2, 5, 6, and 5 and 6. Does that make sense? That's what gives that scale its quality. Remember, to construct a scale and to derive it, you have, because of notational rules, you have to use every letter and you have to use them in order. And you can't skip a letter and you can't repeat a letter. So let's just take C major again. I can't go C, D, F flat, F, G. So let me say it again. C, D, F flat, F, G. No, F flat is an E, right? And I broke two of those rules. I said C, D, F flat, F, which I'm now repeating a form of F. And I skipped E entirely. E for the word entirely. It's a class on how to say the alphabet. So that's just sort of a thought thing. You know, it's not based on how anything sounds necessarily. But you can apply that to, again, A flat Phrygian. And you know that between 1 and 2 and 5 and 6 are where your half steps are. And you've got to use every letter. And you can't skip a letter or repeat a letter. So you go A flat, and I got to use some form of the next letter, which is B. And I need a half step between 1 and 2. I actually have to say B double flat. Then I've got to use some form of C, which is a whole step. Remember? So 1 and 2 is your half step. 2 and 3 is your whole step. This is an awfully hard way to do it. I'll show you in a much easier way. So what do we have so far? A flat is your first note. B double flat is your second note, and that sounds like an A. You need your next note to sound, you know, between A and B is a whole step. You know, you're not going A, B flat, B. A, B is your whole step, and that's, you want a whole step between the second note and the third note. So I've got to say C flat. So it's very, very complicated. Maybe I should pick a different I should pick a different scale other than A flat Phrygian. That's probably like the worst whatever. Let's pick something a little simpler. Let me think. The sound of my brain sort of choking. How about we do let's do it this way. I'm going to show you the other way, which is a lot easier. If somebody says E Phrygian, this is a good way to do this. That means you start on the letter E, and between the, you know, E and the next note, that has to be a half step, right? That's one way to do it. We could have done it that way instead of picking A flat Phrygian, which was just crazy as all get out. This is another way, I think it's easier, is if you know, because it's Phrygian, that E is the third scale degree of some other scale, of the major scale, which is the one you're so used to, you can go down to the first scale degree and figure out what that scale is. So remember the major scale between the strings, you know, the pitches 1, 2, and 3 have to be whole steps. You're literally go backwards. E, going down to a whole step is D, going down another whole step is C. Guess what? You need a C major scale and you need to start on the E string. So I picked a really easy example. Let's pick another one that's a little bit more complicated. Let's say somebody says F mixolydian. So again, scale is going to start on F, mixolydian, idplumal, IDPLM. Mixolydian is your fifth note. So you know that and again, we're doing F mixolydian, you know that F has got to be the 5th note in some scale, and we're going to pick the major scale. So F. If I go backwards and I'm going to try to make a scale, and that F being the 5th note, and I want that to be a major scale, remember between 3 and 4 is your F step. So 5 is your F, E flat is your 4th note, or between 3 and 4 is the half step. D and E flat is your half step, so D. Then you get whole steps from 3 going to 2 going to 1. C is your second one, and then B flat. If you tune your harp to B flat major and you start on the 5th string of F, that's how you get F mixolydian. Okay, so it's a B flat major scale. Start on the 5th note, B flat C, D, E flat F, and you play those notes in the B flat major scale, and you'll automatically have mixolydian. The qualities of mixolydian are what? Where are the half steps? Find a generic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start on the 5th string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half step between 3 and 4. 5, 6, 7. Half step between 6 and 7. It's the same thing. Start. You're going to do again. What were we talking about? I don't remember. It was B. Was it B flat mixolydian? I don't remember. Does any of this make sense? Try it at home, because first of all, figure it out in C major, but then pick something funky. Pick something like, Q flat with the, frigidum, whatever it is, the vitamin. And then try to figure it out. You'll be surprised it's not that hard. If you have a piano, that's probably the easiest way to do it, because piano really visualizes everything pretty well. I don't really teach harp players, believe it or not. Maybe you believe it. I had 2 harp students in my entire life that I can think of. One of which got a harp as a present, and I don't know if she really wanted to play. I think her grandma bought it for her, and they came to me for harp lessons. And I said, I'll give you harp lessons, but you got to learn piano first and in conjunction with the harp. I think it really spreads everything out pretty clearly on the piano, and then you'll understand the harp better, probably. And then my second student, she wouldn't let me be in the room. I'm her teacher. She's like, no, you can't hear me. I'm too nervous. How am I going to help you? So at least I'm in the room, right? The woodshed. In case you're curious, this is my, my delightful man cave. It's also called storage room, and it's where I store all my instruments so the cats won't claw them. But I'm glad to have a space where I can come and record. I just want to show you, without showing you the complete mess of my room. Here's what my piano looks like. I've obviously practiced a lot. I've got oboe reeds and all kinds of nonsense. I've got, walnut stain and, straws for my bassoon fixins and everything. I don't even know if you can see this, can you? But here's a C major scale with all the oboe and a fan. I got a fan. I've got cotton balls. Of course, tape. It goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Can you see this? And there's your black notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's my all-purpose hex wrench screw thingy. I don't know if you could see any of that, but just take my word for it. I don't want to show you my messy room. The rest of my house is also kind of messy, so I might as well just sit in here. I'm just a scuzzy bachelor. What can I say? Thanks for listening. And I'm going to put on the funny version if you really are that interested. Thanks so much. Bye.